Hey everybody, Jay Schlansky here from the Fifth Trooper Network. I just want to take a moment to thank you for checking out this show. Did you know that over at thefifthtrooper.com we have tons of other content, including blogs, other podcasts, all kinds of stuff. In addition, if you want access to exclusive content, you can join us on patreon.com/thefifthtrooper and join at any level and you'll get access to exclusive blog articles, access to our private Discord, and much more. So please check us out, and thank you so much for all your support.
Welcome to the Fifth Trooper Podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to the Fifth Trooper Podcast. My name's Jay, that's Tim, and this is going to be a really quick episode today.
How about that? We say that every week.
No. I got some stuff going on. I'd like to be done. Honestly, I'll tell you guys what I got going on. Is last week we had talked about terrain and how I was building tables for Adepticon. That is what I have going on. And so I have I have my printers going. I've got my paint table and everything set up. Right now I'm trying to finish up my Scarif table. And that's taken some time because I'm magnetizing everything.
Yep.
So I've got my AT-ACT all set up and painted, and it's on the table.
Oh, that's right. The all-terrain cargo transport.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Thingamabobber.
It's basically a downed AT-AT, but I painted the middle orange.
Counts. Still counts.
I know those are a little bit bigger, but whatever. It is where we
Still
are.
counts. Yeah.
So we're just going to have a quick episode today, and be back next week with a full episode. But
Right.
real quick before we get started, a lot of you have heard me talk about Marvel Crisis Protocol a lot on this podcast, enough so that some of you have gotten so upset that you've DM'd me to tell me that you don't want to hear me talking about Marvel Crisis Protocol on a Legion podcast anymore. So what I've decided to do is I need to get it out of my system because I really like MCP and I want to talk about it. So I'm starting a new podcast that'll start this Friday, March 1st, and it'll basically it's going to be called WTF MCP. And the reason it's called that is because I always, whenever I'm playing MCP or talking to people about it, I'm like, what does that mean? And so the idea behind the podcast is they're going to be short 30-minute episodes where we pick a topic. It's going to be a beginner's guide to MCP, and it's just me asking, what does that mean? Or, what is that? And having experts in the field come on and tell me what it means. And so our first month's worth of episodes is going to be Tim France from the Casual Professionals.
Nice.
Or Professional Casuals. Whatever. They're casually professional and professionally casual. Professional Casual Network. So Tim is huge in the Marvel Crisis Protocol community. So he's going to come on and walk me through some steps for the first month, and then we're going to rotate out other MCP people. And so hopefully that'll stop me from talking about MCP on this cast. And you guys, those who are interested in MCP and want to follow along, or you haven't started and you want to get a beginner's guide, that's going to be the whole goal of that podcast.
Yeah. I plan to be listening because I know, and we talked about this before the show, but I have the original core set. I really enjoy it. I have all the dice and everything, have it organized in a little container and all that stuff. Really enjoy it. I promote it a lot. I just haven't really played more than a couple of games because I didn't have people. I had Will and Knoxville, but then we both moved away, and then I just haven't had a lot of time. But if I had the time and people to play with, I really do enjoy it.
Yeah. So anyways, so you could join that, and then don't forget we also have an Octoon Cthulhu podcast called Iron and Tentacles that has been wild lately.
Yeah.
I've been so excited about that. It's supposed to be based in World War II, but we're doing some flashback stuff to 1842, which I'm super excited about.
It's been wild and west. How about that?
So make sure you check that out, Iron and Tentacles. And now on to some Legion. So we've got two things to talk about this week from our mailbag and our Patreon submitted lists. And the mailbag question is, what do you think will happen after Worlds? And this is by Saved S4V3D. How much do you think the meta will shake up post-Worlds? What would you do to adjust the current meta? What do you think should be done about the
Mm,
amount of defensive tech present? Oh my God. I didn't know
mm.
this was like 30 questions when I chose this one. Did the
They're
choke
all good
nerf
questions.
points challenge lead us to this point where Gar has arguable the only competitively playable force users at this moment, or
Whoa,
are
that's a
people
statement.
just sleeping on a certain hard counter to give in the given meta? All right, let's parse these out.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you think the meta will shake up Poof's worlds? This is a good question, and I
Yes.
think it's hard for me to answer because I can only answer it based on what I know as
Right.
of today, right?
Yeah.
And the big thing is Inquisitors are coming right before Worlds, right?
Yep. You read my mind.
So
Yeah.
one would argue and say, I think Inquisitors are going to shake up the meta a little bit, and it might be
Yeah.
interesting, and might be
I,
the answer to your hard counter to Gar Force users.
I and to piggyback off of that, because I agree, that's what I was going to say was
Yeah,
Inquisitors as far as known changes, but also bear in mind that Inquisitors are going to be so new that there's probably not going to be a ton at Worlds. I don't imagine them to be some, but not a ton.
yeah,
And so I think you're going to see regardless of if they do well or not do well at Worlds, I still think your quote unquote meta is going to shift towards, I mean, just because they're the new hotness, just people playing them. So
yeah,
regardless if they're good or not, I think they are good, but it doesn't matter. I think they're going to be the new thing. So just the timing of it, I think is just naturally going to
yeah.
swing that way.
My other gut is telling me AMG has said that they weren't going to make points or updates or erratas before Worlds. So my gut is telling me they're going to come after Worlds or at Worlds because they
Yeah,
have and maybe more changes
yeah,
at Adepticon because
sure.
FFG has done this in the past. That's where they announce clones and droids.
Mhm.
That's where Adepticon AMG last year announced a bunch of the new units coming out, like
Yeah.
Genoshans,
They announced
Inquisitors,
basically everything that's gotten us to
and
this
more.
moment and more. Obviously, because we don't have Bad Batch yet, but
Right.
we know it's coming. So,
And all the hard plastic. I
yeah, yeah,
honestly would not be shocked with all the hard plastic if we see a new core set.
agreed.
That's what they just did with MCP.
Yeah,
And so there could be rules changes along with that.
yeah,
So that could be so it's hard for me to tell you what's gonna shake up because I think they're gonna announce at a very minimum at Adepticon or right after they're gonna announce erratas and point changes for
yeah.
for the new season.
I think there's going to be so many other changes around Worlds. I actually don't think that whatever list wins Worlds is going to be the biggest news. It's going to be everything else
Yeah.
around it. So, yeah, I agree.
What do
I
you
agree.
think should be done about the amount of, or what would you do to adjust the current meta? I guess, okay, if nothing changes, I think the changes that would need to happen are unfortunately, Gar is going to have to get looked at again in some way, and
It's so
but
tricky.
it is,
It's so
I know,
tricky.
but the problem is, I you're right.
I know.
It's so hard. And I don't have the answer, but it needs to happen.
Agreed. Yeah, I don't know, and I mean we've talked about this several times now. I think they're the hardest faction to balance
Yeah,
because and again, they're my favorite. Sorry, Empire. I know Empire is my darlings, and I've had them first,
yeah,
but Gar is just like Empire on steroids. But Gar is more interesting to me than Empire is.
sure,
But anyway, it's another conversation. But they're just so hard to balance because like one
yeah,
small tweak could either kill them or make them
yeah.
good. I think that's actually, people have asked also about Padme. I think that's maybe an argument to leave Padme the way she is, so many other changes,
Mm,
so that if you make it arguably worse, then you could then you can just say, okay, well, yeah,
yeah.
we made these nerfs, quote unquote nerfs to Gar, but now Padme is gonna help make up for that a little bit. I don't know if it's not a great solution, but
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
I
Yeah.
don't have the answer, and I think it's a
Yeah.
hard spigot to adjust, and but I think it needs to be. I just don't know the answer. I mean, quite
Yeah.
frankly, honestly, I think the real answer is start fresh. with Gar and rewrite their rules.
I
It's the only
I
way you can do
agree,
it. Yeah, it
but it's
sucks.
not going to happen. But
I'm
yeah,
not right, and it's not great. Don't get me
no,
wrong, but I think it's the only way. You have to start fresh and like rewrite their rules, because the way their rules, they're just, we've talked about this a million times. They just get so many free actions through token sharing that it's
yeah,
just, it's a problem. Um, but anyways,
I don't know. I really don't know how you adjust them without killing them. It's just so tricky. It's
I
almost
mean, the other thing
honestly
you could
this.
do is introduce some more Pierce into the meta.
Oh
Like that's the
God, I hate
only,
Pierce
that's
so
right,
much.
but that's the other way
Yeah,
to counter them,
yeah.
right? And get around defensive
Um,
tech.
sometimes you still just dodge it anyway.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't care.
true. Yeah.
I think the other, and this is a bigger scheme fix, quote unquote, is it's almost like, do you leave Gar alone and then buff everybody else, which is a bigger fix, but maybe better actually.
Yeah.
It's a bigger task, it's a bigger job, but I think it actually would probably
I
be more
I
well-rounded.
think arguably, and I'm sure people are gonna peg us for this one, but arguably
Yeah.
it needs a rules revision. It needs a
Yeah.
2.0, right? Like
What a great solution, Jay.
like
Let's talk about it.
everything we're like talking about, and like I'm thinking through, I'm like, well, that would just be, you just gotta rewrite the rules. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
unfortunately,
yeah.
And anyways, yeah, so thanks, Saved. I hope that answered some of your questions. I think we might have answered multiple questions at once. So thanks,
Yeah.
buddy. Thanks for being a Patreon member. You're the best.
Yeah.
All
Side
right.
side note before we completely move
Yeah.
on. I do want to talk defensive tech is really cool. And I think more factions probably need access to it rather than us to limit it. I think it's just that it used to be Rebels. Rebels used to have the market cornered, and
Yeah.
then Gar kind of came in and has now cornered their own market instead.
Yeah.
But I think defensive tech all around, arguably except for Empire, because I think maybe Empire doesn't need it because they can normally put cheaper bodies out there than Gar can. Um, I think we need to make more defensive tech for other factions. How about that to beef it up? Because
Yeah.
it feels better. Think especially for new players, right? It feels better when your stuff doesn't just get wiped out.
Yeah.
So rather than making more offensive tech to get through it, let's make more defensive tech to make our stuff last longer. And
Well,
from a very simplistic view, keep our toys on the table.
I think part of it might be too, honestly, is
Yeah.
that the clones, their thing is the tokens, right? And sharing tokens.
Yeah, I don't think sharing is as much as I think it's yes, token generation is
Token
the bigger
generation.
issue.
That's a better way of
Yes,
saying it. Great.
yes.
Their token generation is their thing, right?
Yeah.
Rebels thing was supposed to be generating dodge and like keeping dodge, but and
Nimble
then
and stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then Empire's thing was supposed to be suppression, which suppression just doesn't matter as much as it used to. And
Right.
then CIS thing was order control, right?
Yeah.
And so the problem is, as this game has grown, the further we've gotten away from those things for everybody but clones,
Yeah.
right? Clones,
Yeah.
Yoda helped with token generation. Padme helps with Anakin. Like
Yeah.
all these things, clones share them, so they're generating for other clones. Like all these things are
Yeah.
coalesce and work together. Where I don't feel like the other factions really kept buying into their thing that they had. Like
Yeah.
CIS had order control, but then you got a bunch of units now that you can't have order control with. Like you can have some, but not what it was supposed to be, which was,
Yeah.
that whole, you know,
I
anyways,
think it's also you could argue, and again, we don't have to go down this whole road right now, but maybe it's an exemplar fix.
could be.
Maybe that's the band-aid, of adjusting how exemplar. I know Yoda technically doesn't have exemplar, but two things. A, I'm okay with that because Yoda's so damn expensive.
Yeah,
Okay, let him have a workaround, cool, whatever. Like that's his
right.
jam. He's got to have a cool thing. That's fine. And then the other thing you could argue is that if you're thinking about just Yoda, you could argue that you could change his 3-pip to give him exemplar, change the wording of it, just say this card gives Yoda exemplar,
Yeah.
and then 2 every token. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. It's just, That's interesting. All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna go to a Patreon member generated list. This is coming from Jamie Bender. Name of the list is Three Amigos and the Giant Chicken Band. I love the name. And then Jamie writes the following note about this list. I'm brand new to the game and just picked the big three heroes. I've enjoyed playing
Sure.
Han and Chewie, but I'm not sure if Luke should stay or be changed out for another unit. So let's go ahead. I'll share my screen and we will walk through his list. Boop. All right. Can you see this, Tim?
Yes, I can. I also have it up on my screen too. So
Well, me asking you if you could see it is more for our video audience at home, but
I
sure.
know.
If you want to be difficult, that is on you. All right. So my boy Jamie has Han Solo, the one and only, improvised orders, up close and personal, environmental gear. He's got Lukey Skywalker with force push, hope, prepared supplies. He's
Commander
got
Luke should be noted.
Commander Luke, yeah.
Yep.
Chewie with tenacity protector. He's got 4 rebel troopers with the shotgun, the SX-21, and recon
Mhm.
intel. He's
Mhm.
got 1 commando strike team with the sniper and transponders. He's got an ATRT with rotary and emergency transponders, and an ATRT with laser cannon. So 10 activations, 800 on the nose. So, Jamie, here's a couple things you got to ask yourself.
Do you feel lucky?
Do you? Number 1 is if you want to keep Luke, highly recommend you swap Commander Luke out for OP Luke, Operative Luke.
For Operative Luke. Yep.
So I'm going to do that now. We'll walk through this, buddy beans, and we'll worry about the points later.
Yeah. We can trim to fit. It's okay.
Yeah. So, I think with Op Luke, you want force push. You want, I think you want burst. And then what I would do is I would also give him C's, the initiative.
No.
That's kind of how I've always run Luke, Operative Luke. I was running a Luke Sabine list for a while. And this is kind of where it was at. Then the next thing I would do is you don't need environmental gear anymore, really.
Mhm.
So I would pull that off of Han. If Luke has C's, I don't know that you need improvised anymore,
Mhm.
but maybe keep it just in case. I would pull up close and personal just because you're gonna need the points as we switch over to Luke. For Chewie, I would keep Protector, but I would remove Tenacity because
Yep.
I think in this list, Chewie's more going to be blocking for Han and the rest of your squads.
Yep.
I would also consider booting the Commando Strike Team. And here's why. Strike teams generally work better in pairs or triples. So you
Mhm.
want 2 or 3. Having a single strike team is just not enough. And it's just a waste of points at that point. So
Yeah.
you can boot them out. So we bought ourselves 16 points or so here.
Mhm.
I understand why you want the rebel troopers the way you do. What I would consider doing is going with 2 of them
Mhm.
and then maybe going 2 vets. We're gonna find the points later. I would consider that, because vets are really good.
Yep.
And they get you your range on this, which is nice.
Mhm.
I mean, honestly, you might want to like boot both the rebel troopers and get recon, but if you want to get that up close personal, the other thing you could do, oops, I killed both of his. That's all right. We'll go back to that. You could also potentially, if you only have rebel troopers, there's a world where you do 2 with the DLT-20. So you get that long range. I like that. This is
Yeah.
It's a
Oh
good
yeah.
it's a good gun.
The critical one is nice. The
Yeah.
critical one is very nice. People don't I think not enough people run that gun, honestly.
So then back to your ATRTs, I'm gonna add them back in.
Hmm.
I would consider, I think you probably go with the laser on both of them.
It's kind of what I was looking at. The only thing is that I would argue
Yep,
is that the Rebel RT does surge crit, so 5 black dice surge crit is really good.
it
But the
is.
problem is you have to get into range, and unlike the Republic ATRT, you don't have Scout 1
Yeah,
and you don't surge on defense.
right.
So you're probably gonna die
Yeah.
doing that. So you're probably better off just like Jay says, is just putting a laser
Well,
cannon on
and
there
right
and saves
now,
10 points.
yeah, and right now you don't really have any impact in this list
Yep.
besides Luke. I
Right.
think Chewie maybe too. So you've got
Yeah.
you don't want Chewie range 3 of anything that has armor.
Right.
So I could see this. And Jamie, to keep this is kind of keeping in with your idea. I
Mhm.
personally, what I would do is if you wanted to keep the big three, I'd forget about the ATRTs. What I would do is I would go vets, 2 vets, and 2 MKs. Oh, not pikes. 2 MKs. I would consider putting recon on the vets.
Mhm.
And then what I would do here is we've got 100 and some odd points. So you could do some interesting things here now. If you're really like have your heart set on a vehicle or some sort of support, I would
Mhm.
consider the FD turrets.
Yeah, I think they're really good range control.
Yeah. Put
You have
into it.
close in this list, you have close range already pretty well covered.
Yeah, and then I would
So,
put the
yeah.
impact on them.
Hmm.
So you got the overcharge generator, which gives them a black dice and an additional impact to boost it up to impact 3. You've
Hmm.
got range 5 on him, so you're pretty much covering everything. So what this does now, for newer players, for Jamie, what this does is with the vets, with their recon, and then a range 4 critical 2 weapon, and the laser cannons,
Hmm.
and the blasters, you now have enough firepower to kind of cover your main 3. So especially Luke, if he's going to go and start some fights, he's got covering fire now to do that.
Yeah. The only other thing, I should say, not the only thing,
Yeah.
but the other thing you could also do if you really, let's say, like Jay said, you want to keep the big three, but you want to keep the ATRTs. You can do a very similar thing where you just literally it's the big three. I did throw reflexes onto Op Luke there.
Yeah.
2 vets with heavy, 2 Mark IIs, and then just 2 RTs with laser cannons, and you still are at 789, 9 activations, so you have 11 points to play with, however you want,
Yeah.
whatever you want to do with that, or take a bid if you want, whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you're right. I'm at what, 784
Yeah.
with 16 points.
To be
So,
clear, I think the double FD is the better play,
yeah.
but I'm just saying if
Eh,
you really want to keep the
Yeah.
ATRTs in there.
But you could do some stuff like let's see. Han could probably put recon on Han to get him up a little bit
Yep.
faster.
Yep. Yep.
I would also consider
So here's the thing with Han though.
I would consider offensive push.
Yeah, but he loves that E gear. I think Han needs to have E gear because of steady.
Yeah.
And like I think you're gonna if you want to do Han things to try and keep him alive, a lot of times he has to go full speed
Yeah, all right.
through
All
difficult
right.
terrain, pop out, shoot, and then pop right back through. And I
So
think
then I
sometimes
would
that speed
put
one get him
all right,
killed.
E gear, offensive push, and yeah, you could put improvised orders back on him.
There's
That's
nothing wrong with improv. Yeah.
nothing bad, no.
Yeah.
And then Chewie, boy, I would consider putting situational on him,
Yep. Yep.
because then you can protect her crits and then guardian them, or I
And
mean
if
dodge them.
And if you wanted, you could throw on one of the, I guess you can't do it on the vets. No, I was gonna say you could throw a whatchamacallit, portable scanner on someone, but you don't have,
No.
no one has an open gear slot.
I mean, you could kill the recon, but it's,
Yeah.
I mean, Chewie could take it.
Yeah, or you can just take a dodge action though.
Yeah,
Doesn't
right,
matter.
right. And then you got 4 points left. I mean, he had hope before. You don't really need
Sure.
hope anymore, but
Yeah,
if you
but if you're trying to
wanted
like,
to,
if you're trying to minimize your bid, yeah,
yeah,
you can.
you can. You could put, let's see, you could put could put recon on Chewie, to kind of get him up if you needed to, though you probably
Yeah.
won't.
I'll say you probably
Um,
don't want to because he's your guardian.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe just let the 4 points go. So you got 9 activations. Now, Jamie, remember you get to do a pass.
Yeah.
So 9 activations is very reasonable.
I say nine's solid these days. I think there's
Yeah.
a lot of eights running around. Obviously, there's some higher ones too, but
And you've
I
got
think
3 heavy hitters, and then
yeah,
so you've got sorry, reckless, change of plans, and notorious. So my only question is reckless, who would you put it on? I mean,
probably
who,
Chewy.
yeah, but you probably don't. I think you want
How's
ally
there
and
no?
full of
y-
surprises more than you want reckless.
Yeah.
So I'd give you, so Son of Skywalker,
Yep.
then you want my
Guaranteed.
allies the Force, then you
Yep.
want full of surprises, and then you could keep Notorious Scoundrels in there to get your card back. I think there's a world where Return of the Jedi would be really good in this.
Yep.
Because the suppression removal, but I can also see Scout and Notorious Scoundrels. So, maybe I'll leave that one in. So
Uh,
you get one of
yeah.
Han's cards back, so you could change a plan just a couple times and
Mm-hmm.
you know. But yeah. So yeah, that's what we're looking at, Jamie.
Yeah.
Objective, yeah.
Changing plans twice in a row is, or not in a row, but twice in a game is
Yeah.
disgustingly broken. And that's all we're gonna say about
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah. So then for your objectives, you're gonna want hostage, you're gonna want recover.
mm-hmm.
Uh, I would say key positions is really good with Luke.
Yep.
And then probably would do intercept, probably.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
And then your deployments, you're gonna want advanced positions. Uh, you could potentially do disarray with Luke
Yep.
having improvise seize the initiative. So
Mm-hmm.
so I would consider disarray. I would do
I think you can
yeah.
do disarray, but yeah, I think yeah,
I,
with an FD, disarray is really nice,
yeah, yeah.
honestly.
Um yeah, because you basically could put a FD in each one of these and then they just
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, total
they're
coverage.
just
Yeah,
murdering everything.
yeah.
And then you
Even
put
if that,
Luke next to one to protect it, and then like there's stuff.
yeah. Well, I was gonna
Yeah.
say, even if you throw one in a corner, it still forces
Yeah.
your opponent to have to deal with it. So
Yeah. Danger close. I don't know. I would say major. I don't really, I think major's good. Let's see. You want with this, you're gonna want, I would do rapid. You can rapid the laser cannons, the FDs.
yep,
So
yep.
I would absolutely do rapid with this. I would do supply drop. That's gonna help you get some
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I would do
Mm-hmm.
fortified positions. You're gonna want
Yep.
some more cover too. And then after that, probably clear. You don't really
Yeah.
want any of this other stuff with this list.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that Jamie, that would be your list. And changed. I know I changed it. I took your chicken walkers out. I did love the name, but
Yeah. But again, you can basically swap the FDs
yeah,
for the RTs if you want.
you could. and you
Yeah.
would gain some points.
Yeah. So if you really are dedicated to the Rebel ATRT,
Yeah.
first off, I encourage you to reevaluate your choices. But
Well,
secondly,
also,
you
well, the
shouldn't
other thing
do
I think
that.
key to this is he said he was new, so maybe he doesn't have everything yet.
Right.
So,
That's
he
fine.
might
That's
just be
fine.
playing what he's playing with.
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah. That's all right.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think it's
so
solid.
that's how we would retool that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I think we did it.
We did. I'm actually I gotta you can't see it
I
on
think
the
we've
thing,
got
but
5 minutes left if I had to
yeah,
guess.
look at that. 5 minutes of magic time. There you go.
Anything you want to talk about in the last 5 minutes of the cast?
Uh Last 5 minutes of the cast. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the mailbag real quick and say just that Gar is not the only competitive Force user, but that's all I'm saying. I think Vader is absolutely still in that conversation.
Well, yes. Okay.
I think Op Vader is absolutely, and I think Commander Vader, but
Well, here's the problem with this game in general, and with
okay.
in all games, I think, is because we only see what's popular and what's winning.
Yes.
We don't see the rest of the field sometimes.
Yeah.
Ahsoka's a very good Force
Yeah.
user.
I think she's very underutilized.
Yeah. Maul in Shadow Collective is a very
Maul's
good
still
Force
solid.
user.
Hmm.
I think Ventress is a good one. She got overshadowed by other releases.
She did, and I do think sometimes her job, it's a bit hard to stomach sometimes for Force
Yeah.
user, but especially as a cheap Force user, I think sometimes her job is to die. Like
Right.
she's probably out of all the Force users in the game, she's probably the one
Right.
where I'm more okay with a dive than anybody else. Where I'm just gonna like, all right, I'm throwing her in there, she's gonna do some damage and she's gonna go out like a
Yeah,
champ.
and I'll use here's a great example of this. You know, Scoundrels this week talked about how Dash Mike Berry went to Cherokee and he played a Han Jin Chewie list. And
Yeah,
he was like, it's super strong. And it's just
yeah,
like nothing's changed with
no,
those. But this is what happens is, and Mike did this with Yoda, right? Like he came up with
no.
this Yoda Gar list that like some people were playing, but most were not, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
weren't even aware of. And then all of a sudden everybody started playing that because it's like, oh, right. And I mean, I think it's a good place to be, which is in a world where we have so many units and so much stuff going on that stuff can be hidden, in the
yeah.
mess. So,
I,
so get out there and play and
yeah.
see what you
It
can
goes
make
back
of
to what
it.
we've been saying for a while now. I think the game's actually, as a whole, pretty well balanced. There's definitely some tweaks, but there's always going to be tweaks.
Yeah.
Always going to be tweaks.
I
But it's all
think
right.
I think I think it's balanced as far as faction play. I
Yeah,
still am strongly in favor of a rules rewrite, and I don't want
yeah,
it to
oh yeah,
like completely change the game, but there's a lot of cleanup that needs to be made and a lot of
yeah,
things need to get fixed to like
yeah,
fix their overall how everything ties in together, and as an
yeah,
example, we just kicked Commander Luke out of here because he's just not good, right? And it's
yeah,
not his fault. It's just that
yeah,
he's been out for so long now that the game has passed him by a little bit.
yeah. Old man Luke. Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. Like, I think Lando's still really good, and we don't see much of him. Um,
True, true.
I mean, Cassian's always been good. Like, there's stuff we
Yeah.
just don't see a ton of, and that I think we could. So, anyways, yeah.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
cool.
Well, we did it, everybody. Short
We
episode
did.
this week. Thanks for
Look at
sticking
that.
with us. We'll be back with probably a more robust episode next week. But thanks
Yeah.
for
right.
listening. Thanks for supporting us. And yeah, we'll see you
Yeah.
next week.
Join us next week for another edition of the Fifth Trooper podcast.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production.